My neighbor's security camera was directly facing my bedroom window. I politely asked him to move it. He replied, "You shouldn't be so interesting." I covered the window. The next day, I noticed a drone hovering inside my yard. When I knocked on his door, he said, "It's legal airspace." I spent 3 nights learning about the laws. What I did next made him move out silently, without saying a single word. I never thought I'd end up in a conflict with the man living next door. I moved to Helena, Montana to avoid drama, not to find more of it. After my divorce, I bought a small 2-bedroom house. Nothing fancy, just something that belonged to me. A quiet street, older neighbors, open skies, and peaceful nights. That's what I wanted. And for a while, that's exactly what I had. Then Glenn moved in next door. He looked about 40, maybe a few years younger than me. He kept to himself. At first, I didn't think much of him. He didn't wave back when I greeted him. But that was fine. Some people are like that. I didn't mind. I wasn't trying to make friends. I just wanted peace. That changed quickly. About a week after he moved in, I noticed something strange. I was in my second-floor bedroom, closing the curtains for the night, when I saw a red blinking light. I leaned closer, and there it was, a security camera on a garage, pointed straight at my bedroom window. I stared at it for a long moment. At first, I tried to convince myself it wasn't aimed at me. Maybe it only looked that way. Maybe it was there to watch his driveway. I went outside, walked across my lawn, and checked the angle from different spots. No, that camera was aimed directly at me, not at the yard, not at the fence, not even at my kitchen. It was pointed at my bedroom window. The next day, I walked over and knocked on his door. He opened it halfway and just stared. No hello, no greeting. I said, "Hey, I noticed your camera. It's pointing directly into my bedroom. Would you mind adjusting it?" He didn't blink. He just gave me a smug smile and said, "You shouldn't be so interesting." Then he closed the door in my face. I stood there stunned, not angry yet, just surprised. I thought, did that really just happen? I went back home and pulled a thick blanket over the window, making sure not a single crack of light could get through. I felt sick and exposed. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about that camera, the red light blinking, and the feeling of being watched. The next morning, around 9 a.m., I took my dog out back. I was still tired from lack of sleep. And then I saw it, a drone hovering over my backyard, maybe 20 feet up, perfectly still, buzzing quietly. I stared at it for a few seconds, frozen. Then I raised my hand and waved. It tilted slightly, almost like it noticed me. Then it zipped sideways and disappeared over the fence. I stood there holding my coffee, shaking. That thing had been watching me again, and this time it was moving, following. I was completely done being polite. I marched over and knocked on his door again, harder this time. He opened it with the same smug look. "Did you fly a drone over my yard?" I asked. He shrugged. "It's legal airspace." Then he closed the door. That was the moment I realized I wasn't dealing with an unaware neighbor. This wasn't an accident. It was intentional. He wanted me to feel helpless, to feel watched. I spent the next 3 nights studying every law I could find. I read about drone regulations, privacy rights, and local rules. I found court cases about voyeurism, harassment, and surveillance. I barely slept, but this time not from fear. I was focused. I called my high school friend Nate, who works in zoning for the county. He guided me to a few Montana property rights codes. I also contacted Maria, an old friend from Missoula, who's a licensed private investigator. She explained how to document everything: times, photos, patterns. By day 4, I had a notebook full of notes. Laws were highlighted, statutes circled, and a plan was starting to form. First, I needed solid evidence. I bought a low-cost motion-activated camera and installed it under my deck roof, aimed at the sky. I kept the backyard lights off at night and waited. It didn't take long. On the second night, the drone showed up again. My camera captured everything. It hovered for about 12 minutes. At one point, it even dropped low enough for me to see the faint reflection of my window on its shiny black surface. Then it flew away. I reviewed the footage frame by frame. It was him. It had to be. I also went back upstairs and took down the blanket. Instead, I set up a small infrared laser pointer, something Maria had suggested. You can't see it with your eyes, but night vision cameras pick it up like a bright light. I aimed it right into the lens of his camera. It wouldn't damage anything, but it would make his video recordings useless. Sure enough, the next morning, I noticed the camera's angle had changed slightly. It was still pointed toward my house, just not as obviously. I left the infrared laser on anyway. Let him waste his memory card space. A few days later, the drone returned. But this time, I was ready with something new, a signal jammer. I knew it wasn't legal to use one, but I didn't plan on keeping it on long, just long enough to knock that flying thing out of the sky. When I saw the drone hovering again, closer than before, I switched it on. The drone twitched, froze midair, then spiraled straight down into my backyard. I ran over before it could restart itself, pulled the battery out, and placed the whole thing in a box. The camera on it was still warm. The next day, I drove to the sheriff's office and filed a formal complaint. I showed them the video from my backyard camera and explained everything. This time, they took it seriously, especially since I had the actual drone with me. But they gave me the same answer. Unless I had proof that it was Glenn flying it, they couldn't do much. No fingerprints, no serial number tied to him, just suspicion. I needed more. So I applied for a civil restraining order. I put together everything: photos, videos, a written timeline, messages from Maria and Nate, and a diagram showing how his camera had a clear view into my bedroom. I submitted it to the county courthouse the following Monday. 3 days later, a process server taped the order to Glenn's garage door. I watched from my window. He came out, tore it down, read it, and looked straight at my house. I didn't move. He didn't walk over or say a word. But things started to change after that. First, the drone stopped showing up. Not even once. Then the camera vanished. I noticed it while mowing the lawn, just an empty bracket left where the camera dome used to be. Then came the moving truck, a U-Haul. He packed up over 2 days. I watched through the blinds. No friends came to help. Just him and one man I didn't recognize. They worked fast and barely talked. He never said goodbye, never apologized. He just left. But the story didn't end there. Because what Glenn didn't know was that I still had more planned, and he never saw my last move coming. I thought everything was over once Glenn moved out. For a few weeks, it was quiet and peaceful, just like before. Then, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name typed on the envelope, not handwritten. Inside was one piece of paper. It said, "People like you ruin neighborhoods. Watch your back." That was all. No name, no fingerprints, just a threat. I read it 3 times. Then I sat down and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I was exhausted, angry, and done feeling afraid. At first, I thought Glenn sent it. Maybe he mailed it before leaving. But something didn't feel right. Glenn seemed like the kind of person who would smirk in your face, not send anonymous notes. He liked control, not hiding. So I started to wonder, who else knew about everything that happened? That's when it clicked. The man who helped Glenn move. I had only seen him that one day, but he looked familiar. I couldn't remember from where at first. Then it hit me. I had seen him a few weeks earlier, standing in Glenn's driveway, smoking a cigarette and talking loud enough that I could hear him through my window. One sentence stuck with me. Just ignore her. Let her get used to it. Back then, I thought he was just a friend, maybe a relative. But now, with the letter in hand, it didn't sit right. So I started digging. I asked around the neighborhood, casually. Then I stopped by the gas station down the road, the one Glenn used to visit for cigarettes. The guy behind the counter, Carl, remembered him. I asked, "Ever see the guy who helped him move?" Carl nodded. "Yeah, he comes in sometimes. Drives a black Silverado, right? Loud as hell." That was all I needed. A few days later, that same truck slowly drove down my street. It didn't stop, just coasted by with the window down. He was watching my house. I took pictures of the truck, the license plate, the time, and sent them to Maria. She looked into it. The name came back, Travis Norwood. He lived 2 counties over. No job listed. But he did have a few minor charges. Trespassing, disorderly conduct, illegal surveillance. A pattern. This wasn't over. It had just changed. Now I wasn't just dealing with a creepy neighbor. I was dealing with someone who made a habit of pushing boundaries. And I had to find out why. Maria made a call to someone she knew at a private firm. Turns out Travis had done some contract work in the past for a company that installs surveillance equipment. Security systems, smart home cameras, even drones. Not officially anymore, but enough to know how the equipment works. That meant he could have helped Glenn set up the camera. Maybe even flown the drone himself. Maybe Glenn wasn't acting alone after all. Maybe Travis was the one really behind everything. Then something else happened. Late one night, I took my dog outside like always and noticed the side gate was open. That gate is never open. I keep it locked with chain. It wasn't broken, just wide open, and the lock was missing. My stomach dropped. I walked around the yard with a flashlight. Nothing looked stolen, but there were boot prints in the garden bed, large ones, deep tread. I called the sheriff again. They sent someone out and filed a report. I showed them the threatening note, photos of the truck, the license plate, and the video of the drone crashing. The deputy just said, "We'll keep an eye out." But I could tell they wouldn't do anything unless I caught someone on camera actually breaking in. So that became my goal. I upgraded my whole security system, bought better cameras, added motion sensors, floodlights, and warning signs. I also put up fake cameras in obvious spots while hiding the real ones. I wanted Travis to think I was paranoid. I wanted him to believe he still had control. Then I waited. What happened next pushed everything over the edge. It was around 3 a.m., a week later, when my cameras were triggered. I checked my phone and saw a live video. Someone was in my yard, wearing a hoodie, holding a flashlight. He didn't touch anything. He just stood by the fence, looked up at my window, and walked off. That was enough. I took the footage to Maria. She pulled the timestamp files and turned it into a full report. I sent everything to the sheriff's department again. I also sent it to a civil attorney in town. At the same time, I filed for a second restraining order, this time against Travis. That same week, a neighbor down the street told me someone had dumped trash on their lawn, broken electronics, wires, even a busted drone. I asked to see it. It wasn't the drone, but it was the same model. And taped to the side of it was a small folded piece of paper. It had just 3 words. "This isn't over." I was done reacting. Now it was my turn to act. After that drone showed up in my neighbor's yard, I knew this wasn't a prank anymore. I wasn't just being watched. I was being hunted. The police still didn't do much. Sure, they logged my second complaint. They recorded the evidence. But unless Travis came into my home or physically hurt me, they weren't going to arrest him. So I started digging deeper. I asked Maria to run a full background check on Travis. Not just what you can find online, but everything. His past addresses, job history, old phone numbers, even deleted social media accounts. That's when she found something I didn't expect. Travis had a YouTube channel. Not under his real name, but the face was definitely his. In one video, he was showing off a custom long-range drone setup. In another, he laughed while flying over a lake, zooming in on people sunbathing. The comments were full of creeps cheering him on. The channel had dozens of videos like that. Spying on people, sneaking into abandoned homes, filming people without their knowledge. Maria took screenshots of everything. I sent them to my attorney. But the real shock came from one short video buried deep in the list. It was a night vision clip, just a few seconds long. No talking. The camera was pointed directly at my house. From the angle, it had to be from Glenn's garage, during the time he still lived next door. The caption said, "She keeps the lights on late. Lonely much." My stomach twisted. That meant Travis and Glenn were working together. The camera on Glenn's garage wasn't for protection. It was part of their disgusting little hobby. And I had been one of their targets. I sent that clip straight to the sheriff. This time, I didn't just ask him to take action. I demanded it. And then I began my own plan. There's a guy named Eli who works in tech at the college downtown. He's young, smart, and just paranoid enough to be useful. I told him everything that had happened, and he offered to help. Together, we came up with something. First, I ordered a drone of my own, a top-tier model, way better than anything Travis had. We added thermal vision, night mode, a high-powered zoom lens, and real-time cloud recording. I practiced flying for a full week, learned how to make it silent, learned how to fly it like he did. Then one night, I saw Travis's truck parked across the street. No lights, engine off, just sitting there watching my house. I launched the drone, flew low, moved through the backyards, silent mode on. I hovered near his truck and angled the lens in. There he was, sitting behind the wheel, staring at my house. I filmed him for 6 minutes, then flew the drone back and landed it. Now I had proof. My lawyer filed a harassment claim using the footage. We added it to the restraining order request. This time, the court acted faster. Travis was served 3 days later. I watched from my window as the deputy handed him the paperwork. The look on his face was something I won't forget. But I wasn't finished yet. The final twist happened 2 nights later. I got a call around midnight. It was Eli. "Check your drone feed," he said. I opened on my phone. The drone was already flying. Eli had set it to patrol mode, just in case. It was recording someone crouched near my backyard gate. His hands were busy messing with the lock. I zoomed in. It wasn't Travis. It was Glenn. The bastard had come back. He was wearing a hoodie, but it slipped off when he looked up. I paused the feed and took a screenshot. His face, clear as day. He hadn't moved out of town like I thought. He'd just gone into hiding. He used Travis to keep watch, and when things got too risky for Travis, Glenn came crawling back. But now I had proof. I didn't call the cops right away. I wanted to end this my way. There he was, caught on camera, trying to break into my yard. The same guy who smirked in my face, who said I was too interesting, who watched me through my windows and flew drones over my home. He thought he got away with it. Not this time. I waited, watching him fumble with the chain, trying to find the right angle to pry it loose. He didn't know I'd replace the lock with a reinforced bolt and a motion-triggered alarm. He stayed quiet, focused. Then I flipped the switch. The floodlight turned on and lit up the entire yard like a stadium. Glenn froze like a deer in headlights. He looked straight up. That's when the siren went off. Not just mine, but the neighbor's too. I had warned her after the last scare. We'd linked our alarm systems. So when mine triggered, hers did too. 2 loud alarms echoed down the street. I stepped out onto the porch, holding my phone, still streaming Glenn's face to the cloud in real time. "Don't move," I said. "You're already live." He didn't run, didn't speak, just stood there, red-faced, breathing heavy. "I've got 3 weeks of footage." I told him, "You, Travis, your camera set up every second, every drone flight, every message. You want to keep going, or be the next mugshot in the paper?" Still silence. 5 minutes later, 2 sheriff's cruisers showed up. I didn't have to say a word. I handed them my phone, pointed at Glenn, and let the video do the talking. They arrested him on the spot, charged him with trespassing, stalking, and harassment. My lawyer added a civil lawsuit for invasion of privacy. And since Travis was already under a restraining order and being investigated for those creepy surveillance videos, both of them were suddenly under major scrutiny. But it didn't end there. Maria found something else. Glenn's old YouTube account, the one Travis used to upload those drone videos, was monetized. They'd made thousands of dollars from those disgusting clips. That meant I had a civil damages claim. We took it all to court. Of course, they tried to deny everything. Claimed the videos weren't of me. Said the drone stuff was just a hobby. But the footage didn't lie. Timestamps. Angles. My house in the background. No judge was going to believe their lies. The court ruled in my favor. Both Glenn and Travis were hit with large civil penalties. Together, they owed me over $40,000. When they couldn't pay, liens were placed on their vehicles. Travis lost his truck. Glenn lost all his gear. The judge also ordered their YouTube channel taken down permanently, and all videos deleted for violating privacy laws. But the best part? Everyone found out. Neighbors, friends, local businesses. Word spread fast. Glenn's name became poison around town. He tried to stay, but no one would rent to him. He got heckled in grocery stores. Old ladies spit near his feet. Travis tried to run back to his old town, but his past followed. His probation officer found out about the drone videos. That violated his terms. He got locked up for 6 months. Glenn vanished again. Rumor had it he moved down south, somewhere with no internet, no neighbors, and nothing left to lose. And me? I used part of the settlement money to reinforce my home. New fence, better cameras, stronger locks. I gave the rest to Maria for helping me shut them down. I still live in the same house, still sleep in the same room. But I don't live in fear anymore, because I turned their game against them. I learned their tricks. I used their tools. And I made sure they'd never do this again, to me or anyone else. They wanted to turn me into a victim. Instead, I turned them into a warning. You spy on the wrong person. Sometimes they spy back. And sometimes they make sure the whole damn world sees you.